Okay, so this feels like regular class. Look at me, my nice little notebook. Yes, I am on page 50. That's because I skipped some pages that we didn't get to do. So if you have your notebook, you can start there. I know some of you leave it in class, but I would make sure that you grab a piece of paper. You can use these notes for your tests and quizzes, so it's important that you are taking them. So what you should remember from slope is a couple things. Slope is the constant rate of change. Now, there's a couple ways that we can represent slope, and I'm going to break it down for you so that way we do one thing at a time. Okay, but slope is the constant rate of change. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the slope from a table. So finding slope from a table, you do that a specific way. This one is where we see it often represented like this. The change in y over the change in x. And that's where we find the change in our tables. Okay, so I have 3 examples here of different tables. I'll zoom in on the first one just so you can see it. And we'll start here. So if I want to find the change in my y's over the change in my x's, this is when I find how do I get from 5 to 7? I add 2. How do I get from 7 to 9? Add 2. The same from 9 to 11. So when I'm writing my slope, remember we use m to represent slope. If I'm finding the change in y over change in x, I have a positive 2 in the numerator. Then I find out what's happening to my x's. And when I look at all my x's, I'm adding 3. So I have plus 3. Now, you obviously don't have the full calculator at home, but you must either have the app on the computer that we downloaded before you left, or hopefully you downloaded something on your phone. So remember, we use alpha y equals, and we want to see if 2 over 3 changes, and it just stays 2 over 3. So the slope of this table is 2 over 3. If you need to pause at any time, make sure that you do, so that way you can make sure you have it down. Okay, the next one. This one looks a little bit different. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. So I want my y's over my x's. Sometimes some of you switch that, so the more you write it, the more you're going to remember. To get from 10 to 7, I subtract 3. Same with 7 to 4. Same with 4 to 1. To get from negative 2 to negative 1, that one sometimes is a little hard for people. Remember, you can check another one. If 0 to 1 is easier, you can do that. But in both cases, I am adding 1. So in this case, I have a negative 3 over a positive 1. So we want to do the same thing. We want to use alpha y equals negative 3 over positive 1. And it simplifies to just negative 3, so I can just write that. So my answer here is just going to be m equals negative 3. No fraction needed. Okay, and my last table. Now I chose this one on purpose, sorry. So this should be, you should see what happens. So this one's a little bit harder. There's a couple negatives, so I got to pay attention. I need to figure out how to get from negative 2 to negative 10. So I subtract 8. But then to get from negative 10 to negative 14, now I'm only subtracting 4. Negative 14 to negative 22, I'm back to subtracting 8. Negative 22 to negative 26, I'm back to subtracting 4. So right now, this should look kind of weird to you because normally it's the same like when we did the second one and it was all negative 3. But now if I go and check the left side, from negative 4 to negative 2, I'm adding 2. Negative 2 to negative 1, I'm adding 1. So this is changing 2. I'm back to adding 2, okay, and then I'm back to adding 1. Well, now this is pretty weird. Well, let's see. If I use the first one, I get -8 over +2, right? -8 and the +2. So if I use alpha y equals on that, okay, it's telling me I should get -4. But my other ones didn't look like that. Well, let me check another one. If I do the -4 over +1, because those two go together, oh, I get the same answer, which is what I wanted. So now I can confidently say that I know m equals -4. Okay, so that is how to find the change in the table. Remember, if you need to pause, you can pause. Okay, now we're going to go on to is finding slope from a graph. Okay, so I have 4 different graphs because there's kind of 4 different scenarios that you could end up with. So what you should notice about this graph, this is a positive slope, it's going up. This is a negative slope. Remember the slope dude? This one is going straight down, and this one is going flat. Hopefully you remember how to find the slope from a graph. That is by using the rise over the run. So remember, we figure out the up, down over the left and right. So you have to always find 2 points on the graph. So if I look at this first one, now I know it's supposed to be positive. So they gave me 2 points here and here. So I'll figure out, I go up 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's up 3. And then I go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right 7. Well, what direction is up? That's positive. And right is positive. So I end up with a +3 over +7, which if I type in y equals is just 3 over 7. And it makes sense because it's positive and the graph is going up. Okay, the next one. The next one is negative, so I hopefully should get a negative. So it doesn't matter which one you start at, I'll start here. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm going down 4. And I'm going right 1, 2 to get back to the line. Well, now down is actually a -4. Right is +2. And if I type that into alpha y equals, I get -2, which makes sense because my graph is going down. This one is the one that always tripped a lot of you guys up. You do it the same way. Start at a point. I go up 1. But do I have to go right or left any? You should be saying no. So right, none. So that means it's a +1 over 0. But 0 is under the fraction. Whenever 0 is under the fraction, that means undefined. Not 0, it's undefined. Because remember, if you type that into the calculator, you will get an error. That means it's undefined. Okay, and the last graph is this one. So we'll do it the same way. Start at either side, doesn't matter. This time I'll start here. And I don't go up or down any, right? So that's 0. So up 0. I go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 0 is just 0. And left is -6. But if I type this into the calculator, my calculator actually tells me m is 0. There's no error, there's no anything, it's just 0. So those are all the ways to find a slope from the graph, no matter what they give you. Okay, We got two more. Finding slope between points. Now, this is going to require you to remember the slope formula. Slope formula. M equals, you'll see it kind of two different ways, but that's okay. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. And what you should remember is that we told you to always use your calculator, always label the points. Now, I know you can see two examples here, but just try to look at the first one. So in this case, here's my X1, here's my Y1. Remember, you always get an X and a Y. Here's my X2, here's my Y2. So I'm going to do M equals 5, because that's my Y2, minus my Y1, which is -7, divided by my X2, which is 8, minus 6. Now remember, we told you not to change that. You're just going to take your calculator, whichever one you're using, phone or on your computer, 5 minus -7, 8 minus 6, and you get 6. So here, M equals 6. Okay, we're actually only going to do one more of these because I think you guys should get this pretty quick. This one, X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Since you can't see the formula, I'll rewrite it. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So that's -2 minus Y1 is 9 over -4 minus X1, which is 6. Oops. So -2 minus 9, -4 minus 6. This one gives me a fraction, but notice it went to positive. That's why you got to use your calculator. So 11 over 10. So there's the slope of that one. So as of right now, you guys have figured out how to find slope from tables, graphs, and points. That's really the majority of the work that you're going to have this week. But there are a couple questions on making sure that you remember how to get the slope from an equation. However, there's two different equations that you're going to see. You're going to see ones that look like this, which are in a certain form that you should remember what they're called. And you're going to see ones that look like this, which are in another form. Right now, you should be trying to think of the form before I say it, because it looks like y equals mx plus b. This is in slope-intercept. When it's in slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b, it's very easy to find the slope because remember, it's just the m. So in this case, our slope is just the m. It is not the x included. So if I were listing the slope, I would say m is 3 over 2. There's really no work involved here. However, the other equation is in standard form. And remember, to figure out what the slope is when it's in standard form, I need to make it look like slope-intercept. That means I need to get the y by itself. Well, in order to get the y by itself, I need to move this -2x to the other side. Since it's negative, I'm going to add it. So I have a -y equals. Then we always said write the x first, so it looks like this. So 2x positive, and then this was a +4. The y is almost by itself, but there's a negative in front of it. And remember, I always say, what's the number? It's an imaginary -1. So I have to get rid of the -1 in front, which means I have to divide by -1. And not just this side, I have to do it over here and over here. So these cancel, and I end up with y equals 2 divided by -1 is -2x. 4 divided by -1 is -4. So now you should be saying, okay, what's your slope? Well, remember, your slope is always whatever numbers in front of the x, which in this case is the -2. So So my m here is -2. Now, I'm trying to make sure I don't make these videos too long, so I'm doing my best to kind of go a little fast. Make sure you're pausing so you can take down the notes and be prepared. If you have all these notes, I know you'll be 100% successful on your assignments and on your quizzes and tests. Talk to you guys soon.